Welcome to lecture 35. This is on Leonardo da Vinci, and we're going to look at some interesting things about him. I started a book just recently, because I finished last week, a book on musical prodigies, which I've sent to the printers, so that's on its way. In that book on musical prodigies, I connect musicians going back to the classical period up to modern time, a selection of musicians that were classified as prodigies, though there's quite a few that weren't prodigies, and I connect them to the instrument that they play, and sometimes I connect it to the music that they compose and things like that. So that's a book which is coming out very soon, and if you're interested, you'll soon see it on my website, and I'll do a little bit more on that book once it's been published. But I actually, before I even had the idea of doing about music, I had the idea about writing about artists, because when I was writing this book called the Your Days Are Numbered, when I was connecting events to the dates in which they occurred, the very first entry I wrote about Leonardo da Vinci, and I connected his day of death to his name, which I'll give you soon on the board. But I also added, as I do sometimes in these books, I don't just make these connections, I sometimes look a little bit more, especially that somebody that I'm interested in. And Leonardo has the same Gematria as Mona Lisa. I'll show you that now. And that gave me the inspiration to write a book on artists, which I've recently started. So, I've got quite a few artists. For example, there's the artist, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that word, Munch, Edvard Munch. If I was to work out the placement value there, it will be 13 plus 21 plus 14 plus 3 plus 8. So that's 13 and 21 is 34, 44, 48, 51, 59. And he painted a very famous painting which is called Scream. And if you write Scream down, and S is 19, C is 3, 18, 5 plus 1 plus 13, and you'll find that is 59, and that's using the placement value. As you know, I don't always connect things with the placement value, but it shows, I think, on a very particular connection with the person, because it's the most basic form of Gematria. The other forms are more like extensions, and as such they represent a little bit more distance from the very inner aspect of that person. Some people say that Leonardo da Vinci, when he painted the Mona Lisa, was actually painting a painting of himself in a female aspect. Some say that, and there's certain indications about it, that Leonardo da Vinci was homosexual, and but that's very debatable. And it's also debatable whether this was actually, Mona Lisa was actually a picture of himself. But interestingly enough, if we use the placement value, we find that Leonardo equals 84, and that's the same as Mona Lisa in the same system. Mona Lisa is also 84. So we add them up, 12, 5, 15, 14, etc., etc. We'll find that Leonardo equals Mona Lisa. Can I connect them to any other paintings? Yes, that's what my book's going to be about. I've connected them to many other paintings. He did a painting called Bacchus. I'm just going to show you this one because it's simple and it's connected with the placement values. And Bacchus, first of all, we're connected to Da Vinci, because Da Vinci is also 57, sorry, 57, and Bacchus, 2 C's, and that's also 57. So he has an intimate connection with Bacchus, was one of the paintings that he painted, and there are many other paintings that he did paint, like The Last Supper and many paintings, and I've probably done so far in my research about 5 or 6 of his paintings, and I'm sure there's more to come. And I've been doing with Michelangelo, and I'm connecting him to his art, and as you've just seen, the Moonchild connected to Scream, and there's many others. And that book will also include architects as well, because I've found some interesting things with architects. So anything to do with art will be connected into that book, or put into that book. So let's look at Leonardo. I've shown you that he's connected to Mona Lisa. I've shown you that he's connected to Bacchus, and there are other paintings using other systems of Gematria which he's connected to. And one of the things that's quite famous about him is that he did a lot of drawings. He's a very prolific painter, only that we don't have all of his paintings. There are paintings which he's done which we are not sure whether he actually painted them. Well, let's say that his paintings that we have, that we're not sure that he's painted them, and it might be that I will use Gematria to see if we can show evidence that those paintings were painted by him. But one of the things he draws in his drawings is called the Vitravian Man. Some say that that's not a good title, because Vitruvia, I think his name was, he was a Roman. He did the proportion of a man, showing the connection between a man and a circle. You can draw a man within the circle and within the square. But Leonardo's version of it is different to what Vitruvia did, and so he said it's not a good name for it. But the name that one of the names that is given to that painting is called the Canon of Proportion, and that's what we're going to look at in a minute. Because the Canon of Proportion, like the law of proportions, but this is in particular about man, the proportionality of man. So let me just remind you, I'm sure most of you have actually seen this picture somewhere along the line. I'm not going to be able to draw an accurate picture on the whiteboard, but it will remind you that you've got a person. This is very good. So I'm going to start off with his feet together. Okay, he's got his arms straight out. And according to Leonardo Da Vinci, you can actually draw a complete, accurate square around him with his hands out like that, legs straight down, and therefore we could say if you want to measure the height of a person, you measure from fingertip to fingertip. You take your tape measure, just draw it out, and you don't have to measure the height. You can just measure from finger to finger. Vitruvian, the actual one that Vitruvius, or what his name is, the one that he draws is slightly different, showing that you have to have your hands at an angle so that they're parallel to the top of the head to form that square. But then Leonardo shows that if you put your hands out at a certain angle and your legs out at a certain angle, then that allows you to draw a circle which cuts through the square, and so he connects the man to a circle, and it connects a man to the square. And I'm going to show in Gematria how that's also shown, because I like to show. I'm very interested in the connection between geometry and Gematria, because geometry is this word that is associated with Gematria. Geometry is the sort of root word, Gematria, or Gematria is the root word geometry. That I don't know exactly which way it goes, but they are obviously connected to each other. I don't know if I've showed that in the past. Yes, I have showed it with the right angle triangle, connection King David and King Solomon and the Sanctuary of the Lord as the hypotenuse of that right angle triangle. So you might look back on that in my lectures. So let's look at something interesting here. We're going to look at the Canon of Proportionality. It's called actually Canon of Proportions. And let's write it down. Canon of Proportions. Now, I'm going to give you all four values in the four systems that I usually use. Let's use a different colour. The placement value equals 243. I don't think that's a good idea. We'll try another colour, maybe red. And the large value is 1,352. That's the large value. Then we go to the normal value. It's the way I usually work them out. That's the normal value. That's 1089. And then the normal inner value is 1609, the NIV. Okay, not familiar with these, please go back to my introductory lectures on this, and it will explain you what these represent. There's 4 levels. This is the basics. This is an extension of the basic because it takes each letter. This is C, which is 3, and the word 3 is 56, so we're taking the the value of the word, 56, and if I use that, I get large values. If I now take the normal values, where C is 3, A is 1, N is 50, because we're going up with decimals, I get to J is 10, K is 20, 30, 40, 50, N is 50, and then that gives me the normal value. And then if I take these words and I work out the placement value, so when the N is 50 and the word 50 is 66, and I'll get the normal inner value. So this is an extension of the normal values, and this is an extension of the prime of the placement values. Okay. Now I'm only going to add up the red, these 3 larger values. I'm going to add those together. I've got 9 and 9 is 18 is 2 is 20. I've got 8 and 5 is 13, 14, 15, carry 1. And I've got 3 plus 6 is 9 plus 1 is 10. And I've got 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. So I've got 4050. Okay. What is interesting about those numbers? Well, we're talking about the proportions of a man. And a man is M-A-N. And M has got the normal value of 40. And an N has a normal value of 50. So within these words, Canon of Proportions is the word man. M and 50 is N. We'll see the N in a minute. But we see that there's the main letters, missing out the vowel, is actually hidden within that summation. If I was to write the words 40, 100, okay, this is 40, but it's 40, 100, and 50, what will that equal to in placement value? And it would equal to 243. It would equal to what I've got up here. Isn't that amazing? In other words, hidden within these values, these 3 values, it takes you back to the basic value of 243. Now, got a few more of those around. So let's now look at man and those values. And I'm going to rub this off now. So, no coincidence. I've now shown you in that one piece of Gematria that the placement, large value, normal value, and normal inner value all come together in this idea of this the proportionality of a human being. In other words, when I've shown in my books like the Beyond Science, and I've connected up 200 over 200 scientists to what they designed, what they invented, or the book they've written, by using these methods, because within the human being, these are the values that are resonating within the human being. They are there, existing there in an energy or vibration level of that person, and if they have that value and it resonates with what they do, and they're attracted to that because that is what the energy level is that they are working towards. So let's look at this human being, the man. And the human being, we're going to write down the word man, M-A-N. And this is going to get a little bit complicated, so just try and follow me a little bit, a lot, because these are concepts which are quite deep. And we're going to go into what Leonardo called the microcosm, the human being as being a microcosm of the world. And that's the human body is a microcosm. Perhaps I shall just do the Gematria on that first, just to show that Leonardo is 100% correct in that. And in fact, it's a Jewish Kabbalistical idea as well, and you'll probably find it elsewhere. I think it's part of alchemy, which Leonardo knew about, and so did Pythagoras. All those great geniuses had connections to alchemy. But if I write down the words, the microcosm, and that has a placement value of 141 PV, and it has a normal value of 618, that is NV. Add it together, 759. And if I write down human body, I will get 759 in the large value, interrelationship between those values. So there's a resonance between the microcosm and the human body. And that's why we say in the Bible, God created man in his image. God is the macrocosm and we're the microcosm. In Hebrew, we use the term Olan Katon. Olan Katon means small world, a small universe. So there's the macrocosm, the universe itself, the completeness or God in its wholeness. And then there's the human being, which is in the image of God. And therefore we find God within the human being and a connection between God and the human being. So just let's look at that. Why is a person called, why are we called, human beings? And the answer is all in the hue. Here's a hue man. And let's look at the hue. If I take the large value, H is 49, 8, that's the placement value, and 8 is 49. And U, 21, U is 21, the placement value, 21 is 141. And that will give me 190. And if I find the large, that's the large value. If I do that for God, G-O-D, I get G is 65, the large value, O is 65, and D is 60, and I will get 190, large value. In other words, the hue part of human is a divine God aspect within a man. That which he has to aspire to and to reach. The soul level. To connect with the soul. And the soul is a portion of God, as it says in the Torah. This is a portion of God, this is people. The soul is breathed into the nostrils of man, and that soul, that breath that comes from God is a portion of God. Rather like a hologram, we are like a miniature aspect of God. And to create a world where God can dwell, then we have to be comparative to God. We have to elevate ourselves up to a level where God can dwell within us and be connected to us. And that's the purpose of creation to a large extent. That God desired to dwell down in the physical world, and he does that through the human being, through man's connecting himself to God. So let's have a look now in a little bit more detail about the man. Okay, some interesting things. We want to connect man to circle and square. These are the two aspects of the universe. You can say that the circle represents the female aspect, and the square or line represents the male aspect. So we'll start off first of all looking at the square. And the word square, and we've done this in a lecture a while ago, the word square is 81, that's the placement value. And it has a normal value of 576, that's the normal value. And these two particular values we showed were square values, because 81 is 9 squared, and 576 is 24 squared. So, and there are some other values. We've got the large value, which I think we'll be looking at in a minute, is 485, and we have the normal normal inner value, which is 475. So we'll see the importance of this value in a minute. So we're going to look at man. Man is, I'm going to do a little bit of Hebrew here, because M-A-N. We're still going to look at these two letters, the M and the N. M in Hebrew is a mem. It's the same value of the 13th letter, same sound. And when the mem comes at the end of a word, it has a final mem. It looks as the shape of a box, a square. And we've done that's part of my lecture on the square some time ago. That is the final mem. It's the M. And the nun, the N, is the 14th letter, and that's the same as the letter nun. If I use the final letter nun, which as it is at the end of the letters, it represents a line. And I showed that the word nun is spelt out in Hebrew, that's the word nun, nun vav nun, equals 106, that's 50 plus 6 plus 50 in the normal values, NV. And using the normal values again, it's kav. Kav is 100 plus 6 is 106, that's normal values. And the word kav means a line. So there's this direct gematria that shows that nun represents a line, and its shape has the resemblance of a line, and the men has the resemblance of a square. Again, we'll see the connection with a line and a square in a minute. So we're going to look at now some okay, so yes, before I forget, we're going to, let me rub this off. I think my notes are sort of haze all over the place to me to follow. So I'm looking at the M and the N, okay? Now M is 40 we've had, and N is 50. Now if I find the normal inner value, these are the normal values. So I'm going to look at the NIV value. So I say 40 equals 84, and 50 equals 66. And if I add those together, I'll get 150. Now we connect to the square, because the square is 9 squared. And 9 times 9 equals, I write down the number so you can see, 9 is 42, times is 66, and 9 is 42 in the placement value. If I add that together, I will get 150. So I have a correlation here between the M and the N together of man and the idea of the square, 9 squared. Okay, that's just one way of looking at it. So if we look at now man, and I'm going to need that in a minute. I'll bring it back up. So we're going to look at again these letters. Man, let me move them up a little higher. Lift the man up, M-A-N. And we're going to look at the square value. First of all, I'll put the placement values. There's 13th letter, first letter, and 14th. So we have a placement value of 28. If I square those letters, 13 squared is 169. I'm squaring them because man is connected to square. 1 is 1 squared. 14 squared is 196. And if I add those together, I get 366. And if I add those together, I get 394. I'll come back to that in a minute. Now, I want to extend this a little bit, because these numbers have values themselves. So I'm going to look at what is 169 equal to in placement value. And it equals 266. 1 is 34. And 196 also equals 166, because the same words, 69, 96, have got exactly the same letters. So 169 or 196, they both equal this 266. And you can notice that if I was to add these two together, I will get 300. And if I add those two together, I will get 300. It's actually the large value of star, the word star. But it's got more than that. So the the value of 266, so if I take this now and I extend it further, what is 200 and 66. So 258, 74, and 60 is 97, and 6. If I add that together, this is placement value. 4 and 8 is 12, 21, 28, 30. Carry 3. 5 plus 7 is 12, 12, 13, 22, 27, 30. In other words, 266 is 300, which is the adding of these two together. So it's quite interesting how that A is included within the M. There's like this A is like the connecting letter between the M and the N. It's automatic once you put them together. Connected to this is the food that they ate in the wilderness. When they saw it, they said, Mahu, what is it? This bread that's come out from the sky and it's on the ground. But the Hebrew isn't manna. The Hebrew is man. And man is the same as man. Because the very food that they ate in the wilderness was the essence of their being. It had every single ingredient of nutrition that the human being needed to survive. There was nothing missing on it because it was everything that could be used to build up man, and therefore it was him. He was eating himself in a way. He was eating everything that he needed, and it was in the man, and that is the man. So that connection is something which I'm not going to go into now. That's something which I will incorporate in my book on the Gematria commentary on the Bible. That will be an ongoing thing. I'll probably be 130 before I finish that. But that's a big work, and I have got many things that I've already done in many of my books that would be part of that mammoth book, because a lot of my books bring in the Bible, as you probably know, and it's things that I bring into my lectures often from the Bible. So, okay, let's take now a look at the square again. I'm going to rub this bit off, and oops, I wasn't supposed to rub that one off. I'm going to put them back on again. It's 394. We'll come across this number also in some lectures to come in the near future when I come to the subject of the Messiah. So let's look at this, these values here. So I've got here 266, 34, 266. Add that together, I'll have 300 plus 266 is 566. That's the total of these values, which are an extension of the square values. Okay, these are the square, what I call sum of square, when I add them together to give me that. This is an extension of that, and I've got 566. Now what's interesting about this number is if I take the square, which we had before, and we said that it equaled 81 as the placement value, and we said it also equaled 485 as the large value. And if I add those together, I will get 1 plus 5 is 6, 8 and 8 is 16, carry 1, I'll get 566, which is that. So in other words, the whole value of square is connected to the square of each of the letters. It's like an inner aspect of the man, because whenever I find the placement value of another number, I'm looking at its soul or its deeper value, and so I'm extending it, and this becomes the body value, this becomes the soul value, and this we've had before in some of my other lectures, and it comes on over and over and over again in many things that I do. And so we're looking at deeply because we're looking at the essential ingredient of what man is made up of. Okay, so we're going to look at in a minute that this is also connected to the microcosm of the human being as a microcosm. Now that is called in Hebrew Olan Katon. So we're going to just look a bit about Hebrew in this. I'm going to look, I need a really big whiteboard. So let's rub him off for the moment. And I'm going to write down the Hebrew for this, and maybe use colour. And in Hebrew it's Olan Katon. Okay? Olan Katon, we've got the mem and the nun. Okay? But the essential ingredient here is, can we look at the values of what is? First of all, we'll look at the placement value. The placement value is 89. Ein is the 16th letter, 6, 12, 13, 19, 9 and 14, 89. If I now find out the normal value, this is placement value, the normal value where this is now 70, 6, 30, 40, 109 and 50, I'll get 305. If I add that together, I will get 394. That's what I had before when I added the 28 of man, that's the placement value, and I added that to the sum of the squares, which was 366, and I rubbed it off the board, and that equals 394. So that 394, which is the placement value plus the sum of squares, and it's also something which you will see that I do elsewhere when I bring these together. This is a two-dimensional value. It's a square number. It's going to two directions, and it's with the the one-dimensional value of the placement value, and I brought them together, 394, and that is the Olan Katon, the expansion of man from a point to an area, and he comes to a microcosm. So then I look at these. So that's the normal value. Before I go on to the then, I'm going to look at this number 305, because 305, if we take the word earth, the word earth is 305 in the large value. So there's a connection to Olan Katon and the normal value, the small world, and the earth as well. And the earth is part of our being. We are joined together and united to the earth. And there's a spiritual connection between the human being and the earth, an interaction which, if we realised it, we'll see how much we can affect the earth and how much we influence what goes on the earth. Well, we know that in a physical sense, but do we know that's really in a spiritual sense? So, no, I'm not going to rub that off, I'm going to rub this one off. So we've seen the placement value and the normal value. If I look at the large value now, the large value of Olan Katon is 566. Isn't that amazing? Because we've had that number twice. We've had it with the square, and we've had it also with man. So Olan Katon is connected to man, and it's connected to man in two ways. It's connected to man by these two values, and it's connected to man with this value as well, 399. Okay, just had a sort of an idea which I haven't tested out, because I look at these numbers and always my mind flicks, you've got 406, this is 10, adding these two together, it might be quite interesting. It's 800, it will be 960. So something for me to look into. I'm not sure what 960 is, but that's that. So now let's look at the word human being. If I take the word human being, I'm going to rub off this now, because it's the human being that is the microcosm. Human being, and I'm going to work out the placement value. The placement value of human being is 94 PV, and the normal value, as we had down here, the same two here. Okay, placement value, normal value. Placement value, normal value is 472. That's normal value. What does that equal to? It equals to 566. The total value, I call that. Okay, TV, for those who've seen that in the past. So both the total value of human being and the total value of Olan Katon is, no, that's not right. Sorry, it was the large value of Olan Katon equals 566. So we see this 566 4 times. I've had it now, 566. So, okay, now the body. We're going to look now how this all connects to the circle. We've seen how it's connected to the human being is connected to a square. How is it connected to a circle? So let me just rub off. We won't come back to 566 now. Okay. So let's have a look. We've got a head. And we've got a torso. Okay, and according to Leonardo's picture, his arms were out there, his legs going down. Okay, so we've got an arm coming off the torso, and we've got a hand at the end. We've got an arm that side. Did you know that Leonardo was left-handed? Apparently. So we've got an arm that side and a hand that way. Then connected to the torso we have a leg and a foot, and we have another leg, we have another foot. And if I was to write that down in terms of the values, what will they be? So I'm going to use the placement value. Head is 80, torso is 50, no, torso is not 50, torso is 87. Okay, that's, oh no, is 215 is 30, 40, 50, 68, 78 plus 9 is 87. Leg is 24, got two of those, and I've got a foot, which is 56, okay. Oh, I've got the arms. Arm is 32, and we've got a hand, 27, and we've got 27. Now, as far as looking down vertically, his height, okay, so we got 18, 87, 24, 56. We'll see how that works out. Hold on a moment. So I'm going to add I'm going to don't tell me I made a mistake here. Let's have a look. Don't know why I put that there. Okay, I'm going to do this sort of my mind. 138. No. Oh, I understand what I do. Okay, so we're going to add these together. 18 and 85, 87, so 18 and 87 is 105. So let's write that down here, 105. We've got two legs, 24 and 24 is 48. And we've got two feet, two feet. So that's 112. Alright, so we're just going down, not this way at the moment, down the body, head, torso, two legs, 2 feet. How much does that come to? We have 8 and 2 is 10 plus 5 is 15. Something doesn't look right. Come back in a minute. Hold a moment. 3, yeah, 8, 15. Yeah. 24, 24 is 48. 56 and 56 is 112. 3, 80, 160. Oh, of course, I've got to add the hands and arm. Right, so I haven't finished. I have to conclude those in this particular calculation. So I've got arm and arm, which is 32 and 32 is 64. And I've got 27 and 27, which is 54. Okay, so I've got to do the whole lot. Don't know why it's not looking right. Okay, so I've got to add all that together. What does it come to? It's 5 and 8 is 13, 14, 15, plus 4 is 19, 23. Okay, 4 plus 1 is 5, plus 5 is 10, plus 6 is 16, 17, 18. Carry 1, 1, 2, 3. So I get 383. So getting confused there, and I'll just clarify. I'm adding all these numbers together, the whole body. All right, the whole body of all those numbers comes to 383. Okay, so I've included every single number: 2 hands, 2 arms, 2 feet, legs, and torso and head. What is this number 383? It's the value of a circle. Circle is 383 in the normal inner value. So now I've connected the human being through his anatomy to the circle. Before I connected him from the name of the person, the man. Man is, the woman is the same in this respect. In fact, the proportionality within the woman is different to that of the man. The head to ratio of the body is different to that of the man. There are differences, but nevertheless, man is part of woman, because if you look at the word woman, it's W-O, man. So it's got man within the woman, so she has a similarity to it, is included in this as well. So, of course, we will have hands and arms and legs. So this idea of the circle is within the man. It's the female and the masculine within the same thing, because the square, as I said, represents the masculinity, and the circle is the femininity, and they come together, the yin and the yang, they're both there. So that's the connection with the man. So let's go back again. We're going to look at man in a little bit more detail, and we're going to look at the word man now. We've looked at the anatomy, and the word man is M-A-N, and I'm going to write down all the values. 28 is the placement value we've had before. He has a normal value of 91. That's 40 plus 1 plus 50 is 91. That is the placement value of spirit, which is 91. So that's within man as well. He has a large value of 237 and an inner normal value, NIV, of 184. So those are the four basic values of man. If I add these together, some of these together, so I'm going to add 91 and 237, and I will get 1 and 7 is 8, 2, 3. I'll get 328. If I now add the placement value as well, I will get 356. And on my lecture on the circle equals 356 in the large value. So we have a correlation between man using all those three values there and the circle, which is connected to 3. C is 3, C is 3, is connected to pi, 3.1.155. So man is connected to the circle in that way, and we'll show him connected to a circle in another way. If I take the word in Hebrew for man, now there are 4 words for Hebrew for man in Hebrew. The most used word is ish. It's the modern Hebrew word as well for man, and it's used in the Genesis story where Adam is also referred to man, but he's called it ish, and the woman is called isha. So, oh, that's not ish, we want to shin. So we have aleph, yud, shin, ish. Okay? Now if I work out the normal value, that is, no, not the normal value, sorry, the large value, aleph is 34, aleph is 1, so 1 is 34, yud is 10, is 39, and shin is 21, 21 is 141. Right, now you can see when I am using the large values, I'm using the English values of the numbers of the Hebrew. And this is something which I need to discuss at some other time, how English becomes an explanation or a deeper understanding of the Hebrew. And that is a chiddush, that's something very new, and I know some people find that very uncomfortable to be looking at that sort of thing, to think that English can be used to understand the Hebrew. But I've showed that before, for example, when I showed that the mater, the staff of Moshe, when he is told by God to cast it on the ground, it becomes a serpent, and I've shown you that matter in the English names of the letters, mem, taf, hey, is 97, and serpent is 97 in English. So I'm using the English names of the letters, and I'm using the English word for serpent, and I'm connecting it through the Hebrew matter. So this in connection, and I've explained also in the past about the word Daniel, where you look at Daniel Dan, you read it backwards from the Lamed Aleph Yud Nun to the Nun. You got Lion backwards, Lamed Aleph Yud Nun, and Den Daled Nun. You got Lion Den. You got English way, Hebrew way. They come together, and this is all part of what I will say is this particular new revelation of English and how it's connected to the end times, because at the end of the book of Daniel, chapter 12, where it talks about the end of times, and God tells Daniel, go to your end, and that was the clue to me to go and look at the end of Daniel to see what that means. And then I spotted that if you read it backwards, you see lying down, and that's the connection. And lying down is connected to lan don, which is lan is to or lie on. From lan means to dwell, to stay overnight. Den is a place of dwelling for the lion, and that's connected to London as well. How that is, another time. So we're looking at the moment at ish, and we're looking at the large value. If I add it together, I will get 9, 4, 14, I got 4, 7, 10, 11, and 1 and 1 is 2. I get 240. Now remember what I showed with man, that it has the normal value of 91 and V, and the word spirit is equals 91 in the placement value. Here we've got the large value of ish, LV, and the Hebrew for spirit is ruach. I can write properly, that is. So we've got ruach. Ruach is reish, vav, chet is 214 in the normal value. So we have the same idea that the ruach, which is spirit, is connected to ish in Hebrew, and spirit in English is connected to man in English. Okay? So, because that's part of man. Man is part physical, part spiritual. And so we've got this 214, which is, let's rub man off again, 214. If we now look at the normal inner value of man, where Aleph again is 1 is 34, Yud is 10 is 39, but now Shin is 300, 300 is 130. If I add that together, I'll do it quickly, 9 and 4 is 13, carry 1, 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10, carry 1, 1 and 1 is 2, so I get 203, that's the normal inner value. If I add that together, I get 417, and that's what I will call the LNIV value, the large normal inner value. Alright, that's the LNIV. So I've added those to get ish. And if I take the word a circle has a normal inner value of 417. That's the normal inner value of a circle. So we see again a connection with the Hebrew-ish to a circle. With man in English, it's just circle. But either way, whether it's a circle or circle, it's a connection to circle. Okay. So now we're going to go a little bit more deeper. Because the name of God is also connected to man. Man is created in the image of God. So let me just show you that. I have a problem in writing God's name on the board. So what I do, if you write God's name in Hebrew, which is Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, you've got the Yud, which is the head, and I put a line there. And then you've got a Hey, which is like the shoulders and the arms, and the left side is weaker. It's not connected, so it shows us somewhat a disconnection to the mind with the left hand side, which is not the case with left-handed people. And then you have a Vav, which is the spine, and then you have the Hey, which again is the pelvis or the thigh, and the right and the left hand side of the legs. Now if I work out various different gematria of these, the first one I'm going to do is the following. The placement value is 10, 5, 6 and 5. The placement value gives you 26, which we've had before, and that is God. G-O-D is 26. If I now look at the large value, where 10 is 39, 5 is 42, 6 is 52, 5 is 42, I'll get 175, a number which will come again in other lectures. I think we might have had it before. If I now go the next level, which I call the third dimensional value, there's the first, second dimensional, LV I usually call it, and that's the PV, and now I go to the third dimensional value. I want to know what 39 is. 39 is 142. 42 is also 142. And I've got down there 142. But 52 is 124. It's reverse of these two digits. And if I add that together, I'll get 550, which is the same as the large value for serpent. And if now I take man, and I'm going to I've got no place for him. I want to work this out. So man, M-A-N, he's got, we've had this before, the SOS, that's the sum of squares, is 366. And the normal inner value, the NIV value, is 184. We had that earlier. And if I add that together, I get 550. I've not actually added the sum of squares to the normal inner value anywhere else. I've always, whenever I've done an addition to the sum of squares, it's always been the placement value. But in this case, I saw this connection, which is quite interesting. What it means, I don't know. When I only have one time I use a system, I don't know the validity of it to any great extent until I look at it in more detail. But follow this through, because this is using a particular energy of the normal value and the strength of the square value which a man is connected to. So now we go back to the square, because we said that the square was 9 times 9, which is 81, and we said that 9 times 9 is 150. But we didn't look at the other value, which was 24 times 24. And if I was to write 24 times 24, of course in words, and I was to work that out, I'll get 400. So they are connected together, 81 and 576. These two numbers were the values of the word square in the placement value, and in the what's the normal value. Yep, the normal value, 576 was a square value, and they gave me two numbers. If I add those together now, 150 plus 400 is 550, and I get back to this man and its connection to God, this idea of the square. So I find that quite interesting, but it's obviously must be more to it than that, and I haven't gone much further than that, but this connection between these two square values of the word square has a connection to God, has a connection to man. So then I looked at God again, Yud-K Vav-K, and I'm interested now, actually hold it, I haven't finished yet. I've got this here, yes, fantastic. Mustn't forget this, because I've got 26 here for God, and I've got 550, and if I add those two together, I get 576, which is 24 times 24. 24 times 24 is 576. The God's name in these three levels, placement value, what I call the first dimensional, second dimensional, third dimensional value. The first and the third dimension give me this square. The question is how that's connected to me, that I'm yet to find out. But actually you see these two together, which is 201. This comes into my book Elisha and the Two She-Bears, this number 201, when Elisha curses these children in the name of God, and we'll look at the name of God and how this is connected. This 201 is connected to this curse. So if you're interested in that, that's a book worth reading. So now I go back to these to God's name here, and I'm going to rub off all but the placement value. So that leaves me now with the placement value. And now I'm going to square those numbers like I did for man. Let's square them. I get 100. I get 25. I get I made a slight mistake here. No, I'm not going to do this because this is an extension which is not quite correct. Okay, well I've done up to there. This is something I'm going to look up to a little bit more, bit detail about what's going on here. But we've seen how God connects to those numbers. I'm going to finish up now with the Gematria I've got in my book, Your Days Are Numbered, about Leonardo's death. And I'm going to add to that something which I worked out this morning about his birth. Okay, now I'll do the death first because that is the most simplest one I've got. I'm going to have to copy it from my book, wherever I put it. And Leonardo da Vinci has got a long name, believe it or not. He's not just called Leonardo da Vinci. His real name is Leonardo D-I, not D-A, D-I, di Ser Piero, which is his father's name. I think it means the verb Sir maybe means son of Piero. I'm not quite sure what that means. Just Da of Vinci, which is where he was born. It's a place. Da Vinci is the place. So Da Vinci, Leonardo da Vinci means Leonardo of Da Vinci. And Piero was his father's name. And so if I write Leonardo di Ser Piero da Vinci dies today at Clos, this is where he dies, Clos Luz, that's where he dies. And if I add that all together, I get 477. Happens to be the large value of truth. And he died on the 2nd of May, I'm going to put T for TH for 1000, right? 500, H for 100, 519, that was the year in which he died. That's 1519, and that will equal 477. So I've connected his name, his full name, where he dies, to the date in which he dies, which is 477. Okay. As for his birth, there were 2 dates given for when he was born, so there's not quite certain about it. One is the 14th of April 1452, and the other is 15th of April. So one day is either the 14th or the 15th. And I looked at both dates. I came out with this as my answer. Do I need the full name? No, I do not need his full name. I need just Leonardo. So that's his name, first name. And so I'm going to write the day Leonardo is born. It's got to be a proper sentence. Whenever I do a birth or death, it's got to be a proper sentence. There might be a few ways of writing that, but we're talking about probability of still working out every time, especially if we keep finding it. So the day Leonardo is born, out, and I'm using the words in Wikipedia, out of wedlock, in Vinci, that's where he was born, in Florence, that was the state or county, Florence, Italy. So we have this full place of birth, equals 622. And that equals 14th of April 1000, I use a T for 1000, 400, H for 100, and and that equals 622. And I'll let you think about whether that actually proves that he was actually born on the 14th. I don't think I tried extensively all possible ways of writing his birth. Tried a few, and this is what came up. I couldn't find anything connected to the 15th, so we'll have to accept that he's probably one day older than we might think otherwise. So that will bring a close to. I just got one more Gematria if you're interested. One of his paintings was called the Annunciation. I'll just show how we can do that using more than just the placement value, and finish on that point. So, as I say, there are many ways of connecting him to all his paintings. This is an example. Annunciation, which is about Mary and the angel of Gabriel. Annunciation, placement value of 135 PV, has a normal value of 783 NV. And if I add that together, I get 980. That will be the total value. And then if I take his name besides the first name, I've taken the first name off, I just use the Ser Piero Da Vinci, because he's got so many names. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus Leonardo 6. Doesn't make it more possible to find values, but remember I'm finding them for many of his paintings. Oops. And that's the normal value. The normal value of those 5 words is the same as the total value of Annunciation. So, and the same thing I'll do with other things like the Last Supper and many other things he's done. So there we are, Leonardo da Vinci, incredible guy, connected to what he found, and we can see how important and how revealing this whole thing of the Canon of Proportion, which is of the man, of human being, and the inner hidden secrets behind that of what it means to be a God-man and divine in nature within the human being. I hope you enjoyed that lecture. It's been quite long, and there's more to come. Be well. Speak to you soon.